And he looks at me and he says, "Did you not see the day?" I says, "What do you can't tell for the sea?" And he says, "You have salt water written over you." He says, "I can't when I saw you at my door that you was for the sea, because it's written all over you." He says, "Salt water. Where did you come from?" I says, "Peterhead." "Oh, aye. Your father Peterhead, man?" "Aye." "What's your name?" "Buchan." "Oh," he says, "I'm not in his beard." He says, "You're bound to be a Buchan." And he said, "Is your father been in Peterhead all his days?" "Aye, he was." He says, "Your mother's not from Peterhead?" "No," I said. She says, "Nee." She says, "For Stirlingshire. You're like your mother's folk." "Aye," I said, "I'm like my mother's folk." He says, "I kent it. I kent it." He says, "Man, you didn't hear an Aberdeenshire face." Now, if it did that man see it?
Well,
What did he see that the other folk didn't see?
I'm puzzled with that.
But he was dead right.
Aye.
En een fortnight after had ik enkele firm het 5e. En I had got an enkele praktische driving my motor and left the motor facing out. Didn't like the reverse in a firm flush, because there could be hames or you get touch at your back. There could be burns. And I would drive past the house and leave a van facing out. And there was a woman, before I got poor to come out over the motor, there was a woman to the window, and she said, "I'm very sorry, I would like you to bide in your vehicle and they come to the door." She says, "My man's been off in a wheel and he's just fallen asleep, and I wouldn't like you to come and walk on him. Can you make him back later?" "Oh, good," I says, "I can come back on it then." "That's fine," she said. And she says, "What's a fisherman doing in a van?" Well, I had to call her and die one. I said, "Fit God, you think I'm a fisherman?" Well, she said, "If you're not a fisherman, you're a shepherd." But I plumped for fisherman. And she was right. No, Fit did that 12 folk, J.R. Allen and Mrs. Simple, and they both saw something about me that you didn't see it.
No.
No, I'm sure you didn't.
No, I didn't.
But they saw it.
It's interesting.
I was very interested in that now. You're like your mother's folk. Aye, maar your mother's never Peterhead, and you're like your mother's folk. Aye, I kent me, he says. I kent you was never a Peterhead, man. That's strange now.
I find it.
When I'm writing, I like to write about folk. There's nothing like Irish folk. But I was 30 years to sea and meeting all kinds of different folk, different fishing in different places, rubbing shoulders with all kinds of folk. I started writing, I wrote a poem for fun about Heron Feather. And I couldn't get a word to rhyme with feather. And I was sitting at the fiddle, sitting in the back of the fiddle, and the cook, he cries, "Supper, supper ready." And I says, "One fits for supper and night." He says, "Liver." Good, that's the word. See now how things come. And it was about the heron feather, you see, because there is a trouble called heron feather. I've hint.
Is that right?
Oh yes, I've been heron feather. An acute attack of heron feather. I've been it. You think that you're getting so little, and when so many folk it's getting so much, you get this impression into your mind that you've been singled out for want. You are the fella who is not going to get a crown. Hard folk a lot of here, but now you. I'm going to get you done. Get you on your mind.
Folk killed here. It's a street just leads right down onto the harbour at Peterhead. And they blamed the aeroplanes had been over, and I think they had bombed somewhere at night, but they were going to walk back. And they blamed it was a drunk sailor. It had fired a shot, and they'd seen a flash, and had bombed, and it was James's Street had got it. Queen Street was bombed. There was a lot of folk killed in it. That was one of the houses, or one of the pianos, was blown right up in our tenement at the other side of the street, and landed in their back garden just in bed chicken. The night after I wanted to get my tonsils out, the academy was bombed. Well, we just bait just outside the academy. In fact, when the academy was bombed, we'd have been in the shelter, well, below the stairs. And when my mother came out, she thought it was a Wartime house. She thought it was a smell of gunpowder. But as was the set had fallen down along with a shock. Again, and the smell of the set had gone away. And it was well, we just looked out our window into the academy. There was a man in Looney being killed here. He bed next to the academy. The shelter, they had a shelter in the garden. And it had been hot in the night. I mean not Looney, I can see him yet. Little fair-headed Looney Smith. And
There's a lot of folk killed in James Street as well, wasn't
aye, there was a lot of folk at James's Street. In the summertime, Peterhead, in the summertime especially, the siren would get off every night. Because every bonny night you was near shore that the siren would go off. I had just been to school then, but I mean the tune was full of sailors, airmen, a lot of Poles, a lot of Norwegian sailors. There were a lot of them. They were stationed out at Cruden Bay, at the big station hotel at Cruden Bay. It was full of Norwegian sailors. And the Imperial Hotel in Peterhead, the Norwegians were billeted there and all. I mind being down ashore once. It was the same time as the academy was bombed, the day afore, or 2 or 3 days afore, because I had to tell my father when he came in for the sea that I was going to want to get my tonsils out. And I mind not clear as anything. There was a seaplane had landed in the bay at Peterhead, at the Queenie side of the bay. There was like a little wee beach here, aside the big breakwater. When a plane came over and started machine gun and right along the harbour, my father grabbed me and took me to the men's toilets for the new harbour tour. Nothing is now. It was in here, it was on a pier, up there and I was trailed in here and all. And then it was at night. Before I got in, the hospital at the academy was bombed. I mean not yet. Oh well, my father had been home and leave at the time, and of course, like a busman's holiday, he got out in a boat that he had a choice, his sail. My mother was worried. Lifeboat guns get off. She come in and walk and me come on, that's a lifeboat guns, which she did, with digging to shore to see if it was a deep. And it was a little wee boat with a canvas, well just ordinary canvas, put no front to her, on sticks and nothing. And we saw the lifeboat towing her in, and it was two families aboard it from Norway. No, it was a little wee booty, like an open boat, and a man and a man and a woman and bairnies coming out toward it. A man on him climbing up. Out on the harbour there was a bar with wires. Again, the wires was you couldn't get in. You got into the market, but all else was barbed wires, because there was a lot of minesweepers and boats and everything. And I mean in the rains, they were in the buildings for Irvin's is now. Well, it was Irvin's, but it had been commandeered and it was like their offices and nothing. But there's bits to here, but you couldn't get detail. A lot of sailors was in Peterhead during the war. And I mean sweepers and things like that. I mean some of the boats. It wasn't the minesweepers, it was other boats. It had been blown ashore in a bay. They'd been in here and there'd been enough a strong southerly gale, blew them ashore, and they were all full of coal. So of course, whenever we come out to school, the whole of Peterhead was doing gathering up coal, because coal was all washed ashore. Between Peterhead, between the mill, the O'Mull as we call it, between the O'Mull and the Lido, it was black with coal. In fact, they had horses and carts sticking away the coal. And for years and years after that, there was coal to be gotten. I believe if you look at right, you would get it yet. But Abdi was doing, Abdi had like little sandbags, filling them up. You couldn't wait to get out to school, it was just the pastime. Abdi could do it for coal. Young and all. Oh well, the academy was bombed. Of course, being to school, we thought this was great. Oh, we went ahead to go to the school. We'll get off. But we didn't get off because they boarded up the part that was bombed. And it was the domestic bit and the science bit, it got it. Now they put up huts, like a big hut. I mean in wooden huts, and that's where the domestic science bit was in. The other science bit, there was bits of the science rooms were saved, but they were boarded up. There was no windows and they were boarded up and nothing. But they were safe enough and we could science here. But we had to go to the so much periods in the library, we were putting down here. To the museum bit, it was rigged out like classrooms. And then we had to go to the North School. Well, we've been academy pupils, we were near murdered with the North School because they were a lot younger than we were. And oh, we would have been late, rather been late and gone in and go to works for the teacher for being late, rather than going into playground with the North School pupils. So you didn't need to get to the beach or nothing like that. You didn't need to get to the beach. The Lido was blocked off, the swimming baths was closed, you never got into nothing like that. We didn't get out much, we got to school, but we never got far away from home. And I mean once after I started to work, it was a hound of the Baskervilles. I got the pictures that night, June Johnston, a friend of mine, and me, we were away to the pictures. Well, a siren blew. Well, whenever a siren blew, you had to come out to pictures. Home. Oh, we wasn't home, all clear good. Back again. Good back into pictures. Siren good again. My mother says, oh, well, that's it, you're not going back to new pictures. So we never saw the Hound of the Baskervilles. But that was, I mean, in a film it was on. I thought, well, you heard about the bombing, and it was pretty badly bombed for the size of the town. But then, you just never thought it would happen to you. The worst bits that I got was if the light guns was going off, and Mum would have gotten me rice. Because Daddy was in a house, you see, he paid with the sister. And we would have gone down to the harbour just to make sure that it came. That was when my father was at home, like. But a few times he was doing, and as I was saying, we'd seen that Norwegian boutique coming in. But I think folk had a lot more. They weren't as open as they were now. I mean, parents would hear, I think it was going on now, but they tried to shield you a lot. But they were worried about letting you out. Parents was worried about letting you out. There was, well, we were too young, like, but there was an awful lot of strangers in the town, and nothing like that. You'd have heard about the scene. Neighbours, family. I mean, a boy Rini was a paratrooper at Arnhem, he was killed. I mean, not. That was one. And there was a place over the road for far I bed. It had once been a picture house in the silent days, long, long ago. But it was a big store, and the school, the chapel school, would have been gym and nothing in here. No, soldiers, the Royal Scots was billeted there. And I mean, when my father was at home again, indeed my grandfather baby was, the neighbours are on a boat would have seen two of the soldiers over on a Sunday and given them their dinner. give him their Sunday dinner. I mean not. But I mean, we hear a lot of the stories now, but there was no television really to take things home to you as there is now. And of course when we get to school, we get one morning, the morning for a week, and then we get an afternoon the following week. You never get a whole day.
Was that throughout the entire war?
Not through the entire war, but it's the worst of the woman.
Mm.
You just get a half day. We used to go to Central School, but it was too far away. Kind of a siren blew, and we were moved to the Central. My mother moved us because we were just aside the chapel school, the Episcopal. We called it the chapel, so I was the chapel school for a year or two before I get to the academy. After the all clear had gone, of course Abdi made for outside the door to see round about him. And it was the darkest night. And I made my father paint the noodles, and he says, "At somewhere in a broch, round about the broch it's gotten." And we could see the sky all illuminated with fires. And next day we found out it was a night at Ben Zimmer's in a broch was bombed. Whether it had been a flames fat or if it had been some of the rest. Because the broch, I think, did get a lot that night. But I mean seeing out because it was a clear house right out of the broch was clear. Again, there was nothing like a twins. And we could see it in the sky, the flames, the illumination in the sky.
That was for one heats in Peterhead?
No, we bed up beside the academy.
Oh, the academy, Peterhead, aye.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
I'll tell you there's one. It's a bonus story and what it tell you know. I was fishing in Ayr, the Second World War, and I get a telegram. Come home. Everything was censored, you see. You couldn't write nothing in your letters. You see, everything was censored. So we was fishing. I was in the North Britain fishing in the Clyde, and I get a telegram to come home. That was all that I got. So my brother was skipper, and away I went home. He says, "You go away and get a bus from here to Glasgow, and for Glasgow home." So I didn't know what I was going to get. All right. So I comes away home and to train. It's off the train off the Aberdeen. It's on the bus to Peterhead, and I come to what we call the chain house at the Middle Kirk, and there was a street warden there, and he says, "Where are you going, John?" I said, "I'm going home." He says, "You can't go there." I says, "Why?" He says, "There's a 1,000-pound bomb lying at your door." I says, "What?" "Oh," he says, "you can't go there." I says, "Where's the wife and the family?" "Oh," he says, "they're evacuated away to the North School." Oh, so I was so inquisitive, you see. We went along Maiden Street, but I would be so inquisitive that I went along the South Bay across in Blackwell. And when I went along across in Blackwell, in up Love Lane, here's a 1,000-pound line at her door like a herring barrel. And after he saw the wife, I says, "What happened?" He says, 2 o'clock in the morning, I had 3 of our family, a boy and 2 girls. At 2 o'clock in the morning, the policeman came to the door, wakens the wife. And he says, "How much your family you got?" The wife says, 3. Well, he says, "Get out as quiet as you possibly can, because there's a bomb lying at your door." And the wife was evacuated for a whole week. It lay for a whole week at her door at Maiden Street, 43 Maiden Street. And it was just like a herring barrel. And they took it and put it off at Rora. And it's a good job it didn't go. And that was my experience. In the time of the war, we was fishing at Peterhead. And we was fishing off a Penny Fall. and we never knew where the Jerry airplane. He dropped a bomb, and it just scuffed the stern, the Jerry. He dropped a bomb, and he filled the small boat of water, but it never went off. And he wasn't pleased with that. He came back and the machine guns, which is riddled with machine gun bullets, and there was no white off as such. Well, when we saw him coming, we knew the block. He was so low, he was so blocked, that my brother, he cried, everybody for themselves. Some run to the galley, some down the hole, one way or another. And the machine guns us. And after he went away, there was a trawler, the Star of Scotland. He come alongside. We was going away to cut. He says, don't cut your gear. He says, we've got a gun on. And the Star of Scotland, he stood by us till we got our gear aboard, or I should have lost our gear, you see. And he escorted us to Peterhead. We had the gun, and the lifeboat was just coming out. They saw the penny fall, us being bombed, you see, dropped the bomb. It never went off, and it wasn't one was touched. That's right, no? That was our experience, time of the war.
Do you mind from some of the rest of the houses were bombed in Peterhead?
I remember James Street, and there was 21 killed. Well, he was trying for the harbour, you see. He was trying for the harbour, the boats in the harbour, but they dropped his landmine, it landed in James Street. What a destruction. 21 killed. I went down in the morning and what a rabble. You couldn't get down James Street for a rabble. Just got a direct hit. 21 killed. Never forget that.
The women folk in the village, which Bucky was just a village at that time, you see. The women folk was doing whitening here and they got. And the Kent was near, and the good sea there was near. And there was a great crowd of women on the pier. And the first boat that came around the pier, they were all rowing in, you see, the whole lot of them was rowing in. And the first boat that came around the pier, the skipper was another bonny singer. And he started to sing, sweeping through the gates of the New Jerusalem. You ken him. It's an all hymn, an all revival hymn.
Maybe, I guess I'm not sure at the minute.
Well, that's
Rings a bell.
That's the chorus.
Aye.
Sweeping through the gates of the New Jerusalem, washed in the blood of the Lamb.
Oh, aye, of course.
And then his crew started to sing, you know. And they were all singing as they came around the pier. And the women joined in the chorus. And the 40 was, the pier was blocked with folk.
Singing.
Coming down for the tune, the village to see if it was going on. And all the rest of the boats was singing now. They all coming in and as they came sweeping between the piers, you see. They were all singing, sweeping through the gates of the New Jerusalem, washed in the blood of the Lamb. Now there was an old couple in a hoesie who just checked for the harbour. They couldn't see the harbour for their hoesie. But they heard the singing. Oh, they heard the singing, all right. And they were out at the door and first the singing coming to you see. And the sea swelling up with the chorus, you see. Sweep, and the women joined in, you see, sweeping through the gates of the New Jerusalem. And it's meer than an hour after that, there was a neighbour get past her door. Here was it two of them sitting at the front door. And there was on the best. And he says, Fitz, good night to you two today. Are you going to wash somewhere, Fitz? Oh no, we're not going to wash somewhere today. We've heard the angels singing. That means that the Lord will be here on a minute now. And we're sitting here ready for him. No, that's fact, you know.
Oh, I can believe that, aye.
No, for that story got back to Bucky as it was bound to get back to Bucky. Nobody looked about it.
No.
Nobody thought it was funny.
No.
they would laugh at you. I'm sure they would laugh at you. They didn't laugh then. They said, Lord will be here any minute now. We're ready for him. Dressed in their
Sunday best, aye.
no, it's a turn up for a book. But that is a true story.
Aye. And then,
Aye, it's a rat race now, you see.
aye.
It's been out for about a year now, you see. Well, there was a coin came through here for the Evening Express. Sheila Hamilton.
Aye. And that be.
She came to see me. You see, if anybody comes to do this Herbert, to spear or anything, this ging up and see Peter. And they just make a beeline for me. They were. Well, this coin was in the DNS series articles on place names.
Aye, what's my name? What's...
Strange place names. And when she came in here, I had a news word for a file, and she got away an awful lot more information than she bargained on. And when she got back to Aberdeen, she told her boss about me.
Aye.
And he phoned me up and he said, could you write a couple of articles for us? Oh, he says, Fitz, I don't know what an article is. I says, I'll write a story for you, if you like. Fitz, the difference between an article and a story. He says, well, I really don't care. So I wrote a couple of stories and sent them through. You know, he says, keep that coming. Keep that coming. And that's the way they're going to start.